My guest this week is a war veteran, a campaigner and an inspiration, and he's 94 years old.
My character has been forged by the experiences I witnessed during the Second World War. As the war drew to a close, I thought I had seen everything and believed nothing could surprise me when it comes to the cruelty of so-called civilized men. But when my unit arrived in Hamburg as part of the occupation army in May 1945, I encountered in their thousands refugees from the war who had fled the advancing Soviet army and the victims of Hitler's Holocaust against the Jews. Last November, I traveled to Calais to see the jungle for myself. I met those refugees seeking entry into Britain and a life free from the wars of their homelands. It wasn't a pretty place, and it reminds me sadly too much of how the world looked 71 years ago. Today, politicians in Britain have turned their back on humanity, which is as brutal as averting your eyes from a sinking ship.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the author of Don't Let My Past Be Your Future, Harry Leslie Smith. Harry, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Harry.
It's my pleasure.
Now, there's many reasons I love you. The first is I've interviewed many people down the years. I've never had an email the day before from a person saying, I will be wearing a leather jacket. And I love that.
You'd be surprised how cold it gets for an old fella.
But not only are you protected from the cold, but you look pretty fly.
Well, you know, you got to keep your appearance up.
So tell me about, you went to the Calais jungle. What was that like?
Well, quite honestly, I was in a wheelchair when I went into the Calais gateway, and after a little while, a crowd of refugees came around, and they wanted to lift me up in the chair and carry me through the jungle.
That's I like that bit in Star Wars when they go mad over C-3PO.
It's always frightening if you see people living under those terrible conditions.
So tell me about your book.
My book describes the type of life I led from being born to the present day.
Wow.
It is about the life that ordinary workers endured from the 1920s to 1932 at least. It was a frightful thing. Hunger was a daily occurrence. It was a terrible time. I remember getting up in the morning, my sister going to the cupboard and turning around and saying, "No good, Harry, it's empty." No food in the morning. And I would tramp to school, and my stomach was just crying out for some sustenance.
Wow. And do you find it, it's so sad that what you're describing there, we did a bit on the show a couple of weeks ago about malnutrition in English schools now. Does that astonish you that we're in the same mess that you were in when you were young?
It astonishes me and it frightens me.
Yeah.
Because I see a return to those bad old days that I remember so well, unless we wake up to the reality that we cannot be feeding our people with the use of food banks, which are increasing daily. I'm not a politician, I'm not a journalist. I'm just an ordinary man who is disgusted at how Britain has gone downhill so fast and furious.
But that's what the world needs. It needs ordinary men screaming from the top of their lungs to fix it. If I was 94, I'd probably be sat on my arse watching UK Gold, asking the nurses, bring me chocolate, bring me chocolate. And yet, you're out there trying to help us, trying to talk to young people.
It doesn't take a lot of work. It's just that you have to get together and form groups, join unions, join anything that lets you discuss what's happening in the country today. It's just nonsense that we can let governments get away with what they do.
Yeah.
We have to feel that we're one unit, one strong people, that we've always kicked ass, and somehow or other we've forgotten how to do that, you know.
And you're the man to show us how to kick ass again. It's so, I love it. It just feels like we're about to go into battle and you're on a horse in front of us, just circling. It's beautiful, yeah.
You know,
I hope that I reach your age, and I hope I have the same fire in my heart that you have.
I had an uncle who lived to be 102.
Oh, wow, so you're a spring chicken.
And he went down to the pub every lunchtime for a pint.
Right.
And
so not only is he 102, he's probably lost a lot of those years as well. Just for being
that's right.
So do you think that's the secret?
He was a miserable old bugger.
Was he?
There's nobody like the Brits for expressing their disappointment of what's going on.
Well, you're very good at expressing your feelings, particularly where the NHS is concerned. There's a beautiful tweet we have here of you talking about Jeremy Hunt. If a dog's asked to talk, it would sound like Jeremy Hunt.
Really says it all.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, the reason why the NHS is probably so dear to you is that you were born before it existed. Like, we don't know what it's like to not have that. What was it like before the NHS?
If you had money, you could see a doctor or go to a hospital. If you didn't have money, you just had the local cures, which, of course, were not for the type of diseases that were spreading at that time, which was tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Now, my sister contracted it, one of my sisters, Marion, and she was a cripple for most of her young life. We pushed her around in a long cart made out of bamboo. And as a young boy, I used to sit beside her playing with my toys, and I would talk to her, but she couldn't speak because it had wrecked her throat muscles. It was really a very great tragedy. My mother looked after her for years, until in the end she said to my dad, she said, "I'm sorry, I just can't look after her anymore." So we called a horse and cart and put her in the back and took her there to the workhouse infirmary, and she died there. She was 15 or so. And we didn't have money to bury her, so she was thrown into a pauper's pit, which was used if you couldn't afford to plot. It's a real tragedy.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, my father ended in a pauper's pit in this city.
Now his son is on TV trying to make the world a better place. So, you know, maybe there's, this is classic Howard to try and find hope in sorrow. But we can't go back to the old days where if you have money, you live.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, you die.
That's the old secret of the NHS.
Yeah. Now, the final thing, you're 95 in February. What are you going to do? How are you going to celebrate?
Oh, we always celebrate my
I don't doubt
Saturday.
it. I thought we'd celebrate early, actually. I've got you some sherry here. If you, there you go, sir. I thought we'd have a little toast. Ladies and gentlemen, to Harry Leslie Smith. There you are, sir. Down it, down. It's all right, isn't it?
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. Should we go out?
I haven't been treating myself enough, I remember now.
Yeah. Well, you've got a bottle in your dressing room. I really enjoyed that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you did. The wonderful Harry Leslie Smith.